All right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Oh, wait. I thought my background was supposed to be showing. I'm the one that has to adjust. Hello. Good morning. Welcome to Waypoint Coffee Corner. We're going to do a quick sound check just to make sure that Matt's voice level and my voice level are approximately even. So, uh, Matt, I noticed you drinking something that looks like maybe coffee, maybe a smoothie. Is it hot chocolate?
No, it's not hot chocolate. It's protein powder and water. I gotta get big like Kyle.
Gotta get big like Kyle.
Yeah.
Um, I,
It's my most brown drink.
it's my
So,
most brown drink.
yeah.
That's hilarious. I was going to ask you, and we ask everyone kind of while I do my sound check, and just get everyone going for Waypoint Coffee Corner. Uh, do how do you like your coffee?
I like my coffee um uh in its roasting state where you get the fumes of it and you can smell it, but when it hits your tongue, that's when it goes downhill. So, I like the smell of coffee. I don't drink coffee. I don't like the taste of it personally. So, but I think it smells good.
Alrighty. Yeah, I mean, I've been in the same place that you're at, where I think it smells good. Not really a big fan of the taste, and then I am now an avid coffee drinker. So um, it's kind of funny. It looks like Samantha's taking up the mantle of being the chattiest person in chat. So
Someone has to.
someone's got
Can't
to
be me.
do it.
Can't be me this week because
It's
I will. I'll just get distracted.
it's true.
So,
It's true. It's true. Well, excellent. Well, before we get started today, everyone who's here, I just want to welcome you to Waypoint Coffee Corner. This is a ministry of Waypoint Youth Outreach, which is a ministry of La Mesa Village Church. We're a small church in La Mesa, California, and the point of Waypoint Coffee Corner is to have some nice casual conversations with folks, just getting different perspectives and different perspectives of from different people about various things, all to help build and edify the youth of today. So, uh, like and follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. If you want to submit any questions or any topics or anything, you can email us or contact us at our socials. We are also found on the web at waypointsd.com. If you're watching us on Twitch right now, make sure that you hit the follow button, and uh, and then you'll be notified of all the times that we do these coffee corners and when we do stuff in the future for Waypoint on Twitch as well. So, uh, on as our guest today, we have my brother, actually, Matt Anderson, camper extraordinaire, the super camper. I was trying to think about what kind of silly title I could give you, but none of them really worked.
I,
So I just threw out my worst
yeah.
ones.
All right.
Yeah, excellent. We're gonna be talking about camp life today, and it's gonna be a good time. I'm excited for it. So, I think that for a lot of students today, uh, it's kind of popular. Maybe it's because we have Pine Valley so close, but it is kind of popular to go and work at maybe Pine Valley or Forest Home or even Hume Lake in Northern California, and people, we love to go to camps. We love camps. We love doing all these different things and these different activities uh, in regards to, and camp is being one of the big ones. Camp is a huge part of people's lives, and uh, Matt has a bunch of experience with camps. So, Matt, why don't we kind of start at the beginning? Uh, no, this is not a my life started when I was born joke. But why
Mm-hmm.
don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with camps in? Well, first tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're at now, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about your experience with camps when you were a youth, and then we'll kind of transition that into your journey with camp life.
Yeah. So my name is Matt. I am Mike's brother. So um, I fall number 5 in the kid line. So Mike's at number 1, and I'm at number 5. And grew up in San Diego till just a year ago. I was in San Diego my whole life, just working at um, camp and working at Waypoint Youth Outreach. And then in 2019, I took a internship, which eventually turned into a full-time job out in southeast Wisconsin, called Camp Timberley. So that is where I'm currently at right now, and this is what I'm doing today.
Well, that's where you're at. You're in
But
Wisconsin right now,
yeah.
and before we get into the details of you being in Wisconsin and all that type of stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about your camp experiences growing up, and
Mhm.
what your first taste of camp was.
All right. Well, my camp experience was only with Awana. And I think I did 2 or 3 summer camps with Awana. I
So
can't
week-long
remember.
summer camps in Southern California.
Week-long summer camps that were uh Christian based, and they were good. I mean, there were a time to get out, meet new people that maybe I didn't interact with, and maybe I just didn't know, especially like in this community where we all had a similar interest. So it was always something like I looked forward to, and it was something that I enjoyed, especially like being an introvert. It was something where just being outdoors and being with other people was something I enjoyed, and it kind of brought me out of my comfort zone, and it was good, and it was uh, enjoyable. I don't remember anything bad that came from it. So
I mean, camp was always a huge memory in Awana, right? And
yeah,
in growing up, it's one of those things where you can almost like define your year, not define your year, but like you can remember each year and the marker being what you did. Like camp is the reset, and we even kind of carry that with Waypoint, where you know in non-COVID years, our
yeah,
Waypoint year rolls over.
yeah. Or maybe not even like the reset, but even just like kind of like the end of the year thing, right? You get
Right.
through your school year and then you get to go to summer camp, right? This thing you've been looking forward to all year. You get to spend your summer doing things that you like, hanging out with people that you like, and it doesn't have to be school based. So,
I think what's special about camp too is that, and we'll get to some of those things a little later. Um, but one thing that's special is that everyone's there kind of in a unified purpose,
yeah.
and I think that creates a really special environment. So let's kind of just do the timeline of before we get into why you like camp and your favorite things and all that type of stuff. Let's kind of do the timeline. So you did camps when you were growing up.
hmm
You kind of like them. Now you're in Wisconsin. Fill me in in all the stuff in the middle.
Uh, all the stuff in the middle, or like just the camping stuff in the middle?
Um, Tell us your journey.
All right. So, I graduated high school in 2013, and I applied and worked the summer staff at Pine Valley Bible Conference Center, which is in Pine Valley, California. I worked on
Nice.
their recreation team. And so that was in 2013. And are we just doing my timeline, or can I speak to that experience?
Do whatever you want to do. Do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This is
Um,
this is
I was
camp life with Mike Anderson, not Mike interrogating Matt Anderson.
oh, okay. Yeah, and it was it was a really good experience for me. I had a lot of insecurities coming out of high school. I had a lot of doubts, and camp was a good place to get away and
Avoid the
work.
insecurities. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
No. But seriously though, like that was my thought is right. Like, oh, dude, like I can go and kind of just like do this, and like not many people know me, and it'll be good. I can kind of just work and be outside and just do my own thing. But that wasn't the case. I was very much met up there and faced with some realities and faced with truth and faced with having to confront those insecurities. And it was good. Like it was a good growing time of just in just mentally and in maturity and spiritually. Um, it was just it was awesome. And again, Pine Valley being a Christian organization, just being around those that group of people who were like-minded um, in Christ, and we're just God was using them to push me, and it was good, and it was great, and it was like one of those things where it was like, yeah, like I I needed this, right, and I tried to get away, but like God meant it for good for me to get away because we can't outrun God, so that's good.
Okay, Jonah.
And then that's kind of where like it started. Um, and I returned in 2014 for summer staff. I returned in 2015 for summer staff at Pine Valley. And in 2016, I actually went because I wanted a different camp experience because I kind of wanted to see what was out there a little bit more because I had my experience and my experience was good, but I didn't want to get comfortable. I wanted to push myself and see if this is something that I was supposed to do. This is something I wanted to give like a fair shot, and in giving it a fair shot, trying different environments. So I applied for summer staff at Salvation Army Camp Pine Summit up in Big Bear, which is about 2.5 hours from San Diego.
I thought we were gonna get a which up in Big Bear, which is up in Big Bear, California.
Nope, nope. Just outside of San Bernardino. Dude, come on, I'm here. All right. I made that drive too many times to not know. Um, but it is up in Big Bear, California. Fun fact.
That's where Big
Um,
Bear is wild.
yeah. And that was good. It was good in the sense that like the experience was very different. And looking back on it, definitely learned a lot. In this, learned a lot in that I had to be like flexible and had to realize that not everybody works at camp for the same reason. Um, while the Salvation Army is a Christian-based organization, that doesn't mean that is the type of people that they employ. And uh, it was good though. Like God still used it for good, and He used it to grow me, and He used it to um, give me that experience that I needed, and that kind of like discernment of like things that I want to look for when if I ever did work at a camp again. And that was in 2016. And then 2017, I didn't work at camp. I spent my time doing other type of ministry in 2017, and that was with Waypoint Youth Outreach, which, ta-da, this is Waypoint Youth Outreach. Mike
Ta-da!
is your leader. Oh, I think Mike's on this side. But
Let's see.
um,
Oh no, no, you were right the first time.
oh, okay. Um, and it was good, and we got to see it grow, and it was like it was it was fantastic. It still is fantastic, and it still uh, is growing, and God is using it, and it's awesome. And then there were it came time for me to kind of like find a career choice at this point because I had been going to school, and then I kind of got burnt out from school, so I left school. And um, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, I was like, okay, well, what are things that I enjoy doing? I enjoy serving, and I enjoy like working on my feet and um,
I like massages too.
what?
Working on your feet.
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Hey, put your feet up to the camera.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, okay, cool.
There's a desk in the way.
Um, oh yeah, if it weren't for the desk,
Yeah,
we'd be
yeah.
all
I'd
over
be
it.
just flipped.
When I was evaluating these kind of career choices, one thing that piqued my interest was the San Diego Sheriff. So I applied for the San Diego Sheriff. I got in to the uh, I don't even know. It was orientation slash test. I forget what the test was on. Oh, it was like pre-background check stuff.
Okay.
And this questionnaire, was 3 hours long, and it's a questionnaire. So like, just think, they figured out how to get 3 hours of just questions and you filling in bubbles. Like that is impressive. Like you think the SAT is impressive. This is I thought was more impressive. But uh yeah, did that, did the pre background check and passed the pre background check, did a full background check, passed the full background check, had to go in for a personality test or something like that. Yeah, it was a personality test. And that one was even more impressive than the 3 hour one. That was 5 hours of questionnaire. And they ask you the same question like 10,000 times. It was impressive. And then I finally got down to the point where I had two things left to do. I had my conditional start date for the San Diego Sheriff to start their academy program, but I had to pass a psych eval and I had to pass a physical. I wasn't too worried about the physical. I mean, during this time, I was coming off of, a collapsed lung and breaking ribs injury, but you get back into shape. Nice thing about bodies is God designed them to heal themselves.
It's true.
So that's cool. Um, when I went and took the psych eval with like an actual like psychologist, um, I didn't pass that, and you can appeal it. So I appealed it, and I went in, and the guy told me that he couldn't recommend me for the program. Not because I'm crazy or well, not because I'm s- psychologically insane or anything like that, but because my personality statistically didn't do well in the job. So we talked about it, and he talked about like my personality exam, and he was like, so these are things that you enjoy doing. So he opened up his little book and was like, based off this quiz and this test that we put you through, you enjoy working on your feet, working outdoors, uh, serving the community. You like things with like high dexterity, like working with your hands and all this stuff. And I was like, during this time, I just couldn't help but smile. And because it was like, these are all things that I enjoy doing, and it's just being confirmed by this dude. So, um,
Thank you, psych eval guy.
yeah. So, it was cool. Just like, even though I went through that program, and it could have been like, oh, people can look at it and be like, oh, like it was a waste of time, right, to go through that because I spent a year going through that application process. Um, and people are like, oh, it could be a waste of time, and like, oh, whatnot. But it's like, no, but like God used it for good still. And just like continuing and being faithful and praying, like, God, if this is something you don't want me to do, like even if it's the last day, like the day before I would go into academy, like show me. And
Hmm.
boom, like I got through nearly all of it. And he was like, yep, this is what I want you to do. And this is what I want you to do. Those things that you enjoy doing, that's what I want you to do. And that's what you're good at. That's what I have designed you for. And looking, uh, looking at all like that information and being like, okay, camp is something that I've always enjoyed. Um, but like, if I do camp, I know that kind of the the environment of it is it can move around, it can take you out of things that you are comfortable with. And I was very comfortable in like Waypoint. I was comfortable in the job that I was in at the time, and it was like it was good. It was like I knew what I was supposed to do, and uh like that works for me. But going out and like taking this new step, like that's difficult, and getting out of my comfort zone is something that's like oof. But God was like, no, we're going to do this. And I was like, all right, I guess we'll do this. So I applied for a couple internships, and the one I got was out here in Wisconsin. And I had first heard about this camp back in 2014 when my recreation manager wanted me to apply for the internship back then. But I was like, no, I'm in school. It's whatever. Like, I'm not going to do that. But, maybe down the line, right? Kind of just like giving it no second thought. Well, you know,
Mm.
4, 5 years later, it was like, I'm here. And the internship was great, and it transitioned into a full-time job. Throughout my whole working at camp experience, I've worked outdoors. So, and I've done like the outside activities. I've worked on like the recreation team, or in my current position, it's called Timber Challenge. But um, I've operated zip lines, uh, climbing towers, high rope courses, archery, waterfront activities, pool, lifeguarding, team building activities, guided hikes, rappelling, paintball, um, archery. I think I already said that, but now we do archery tag. Apparently, that's a big thing now. So,
Archery tag, sweet.
just so like a bunch of these kind of like those outdoor experiences that are kind of like the fun things to do at camp. That's the department that I have worked in, and that's the department that I currently work in. But it's all for building those relationships and gaining those similar experiences with one another for the campers so that they can better learn about the gospel.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Before we transition, I do like to answer the questions we have in chat. It's a ridiculous question. Nothing has nothing to do with your water and protein shake, or what you've been saying. What kind of coffee we having? I had a Japanese cold brewed Papua New Guinea uh, natural coffee. There we go.
And I'm having chocolate supreme.
Chocolate Supreme. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so uh, moving forward, so you're out here, you're doing all this super cool stuff. Um, I guess there's kind of two areas that I want to explore with you. Maybe a few more, but two that come to mind is, um, what would you say to someone who's maybe considering camp, a camper who's considering camp for the first time, and also experiencing some of the experience, like you go to camp for new experiences often, right? But maybe
Hmm.
someone who doesn't want to experience those things, what would you tell them?
So someone who doesn't,
So what would you why camp? Why uh why do why would a high school student want to go to camp today?
I think a high school student should go to camp or would go to camp or however you want to use that word there, for the sake of like new experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not every year is the same, right? You might be introduced to the same activities, but that doesn't mean it's the same thing that you're going to experience. There are so many facets and so many different things that camps try to give you and try to offer, um, that's like it can push you, it can introduce you, um, to new things, some exciting things, some fun things, and it can challenge you. And I think that's good. That's good for growth, and that's good for maturity, and that's good for um, just those new experiences that you can develop in a camp setting. And even if you are going to camp and it's like the same thing, and you're like, okay, I kind of know what to expect, that doesn't mean like the same people are going to camp, right? Every
Hmm.
person brings in a different experience to the experience of camp. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean
there's a bunch of
every
different
year's
things.
different. You know,
Yeah.
we've gone to the same camp for I think 6 years or something like that, and every year is different. You know, and um, so if there's a student on the fence, um, about going, how what would you tell them about camp?
If there's a student on the fence about
Yeah.
going to camp, and what would I tell them? I would tell them like if they're especially if they're on the fence about it, it's like just go for it, right? Like how are you gonna know if you don't try? And there's again just so much that camp can offer. It really depends on like my little pitch would depend based off like the camp that you're at, right? Because there's things
Hmm.
at Pine Valley that are different than that Big Bear, that are different here at Camp Timberley. But the uh, kind of like the core of it is you'll be pushed, and you might be pushed through just like the long days. You might be pushed mentally, you might be pushed physically through the various activities, you might be pushed spiritually if you go to a faith-based camp. But it's a place where you can go and kind of just get away and experience these things in a very safe environment.
Hmm. Absolutely. Uh, I mean, I love camp. I don't work on the back end of camp, so I guess the question is for you is like, what do like what goes on, or I guess what's your favorite thing? What's your favorite camp thing you've ever done, and then kind of transitioning into like the background, like what kind of things might surprise people, um, that's different than being an attendee versus being like an employee.
Hmm.
So like, what's your favorite camp thing that you've
uh
done?
my favorite camp thing that I've done um has been the like rappelling in Pine Valley. They don't do it anymore. But when we did rappelling, like that's exciting because like going over the edge is terrifying every single time. But like when you do it, it's good and it's fun. Um, but I personally like the high up activities, whether that's like the zip line or like the high ropes or anything like that. But that's just for me personally because like I'm scared of heights, but being up there and being able to kind of like push myself and kind of operate in like that kind of like yellow zone of comfort and
Are we saying like
and
green, yellow, red? Like,
yeah, yeah, green, yellow, red. Green's comfortable, yellow is being pushed, and red is danger.
all
You
right.
don't want people in the red zone. Uh, but like pushing myself, right? Pushing that fear and pushing that boundary and just getting more comfortable in those situations and just, trust in the gear that it's if anything happens, it's gonna hold me and it's for me, high ropes and high up activities is living on the edge. Maybe not for everyone. Some people are more comfortable in that, and that's totally fine, right? But
Yeah.
for me, that's what it is. And now for like behind the scenes stuff, maybe that
Yeah.
people don't see.
What would
Uh,
surprise people?
what would surprise people? Um, trying to think what are maybe some things that surprise people. Uh,
Well, let's start here then. Let's start here. You're working at a camp. You guys don't have, there's obviously transitionary uh, periods. There's obviously transitionary periods between when different groups are in and all that type of stuff. Um, as much as you can, what's like a day in the life of what's a day in the life of a camp guy like you, right? Like I know that's like you might be
yeah,
shoveling poop one day and you might be like building retainer walls the next day. Like I
yeah.
mean
I
there's
mean, I like so. I've had a lot of different experiences. When I was at Pine Valley, a typical day looked like you wake up at 6:30 for Bible study, and you work till whenever the group doesn't need you anymore, which is usually when they go to bed about 10 p.m. So like you're putting in long days. Uh, and then there's like when I was at, and something that comes to mind is when I was working at Pine Summit up in Big Bear, and I was kind of confusing Pine Valley and Pine Summit. Pine Summit, like we had theme weeks, and our last week was American Ninja Warrior, so we built a Ninja Warrior course that we started 8 weeks ago, right? Like we're thinking out, we're thinking like that far ahead, but we're even thinking further ahead, even for like summer camp stuff. Like for here
Mhm,
at Timberley right now, we've already started summer planning. Like that
mhm,
started back in like April, and that was
right.
for summer 2021. Like not even 2020. I understand that like a lot of summer camps didn't happen. We included didn't have a summer programming, but like those things are planned out, year in advance, right? And we're working on your programming. We're working on how to make the next year different, as well as how can this year be happening as best as it possibly can for you guys. I think another thing that at least shocks a lot of our kids is uh, some of your staff, maybe not all of your staff, depends on what camp environment that you are in. Some of your staff may live on campus. Like that's the question when people are like, "Oh, where do you live?" And I was like, "Oh, I live in a house on camp." And they're like, "Really? You live here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Whoa." Um, and so I think that's something that shocks like the students sometimes. Um, and I'm just trying to think of other behind the scenes stuff. Oh yeah, scheduling can sometimes be a nightmare. Um,
Yeah.
and we try to make it work as best as possible. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've just been in it too long that I can't remember what it was like being a camper to really be like, uh, oh yeah, these are some things that are like just totally different.
Well, I think if maybe I can, kind of help tee it up for you a little bit. Um, I think that there's a lot of care and concern. Not maybe concern is a strange word, but there's like every time I've talked to camp folk and worked with them on setting up the camp and really working on the week and all that type of stuff. Like one thing that's been really apparent to me is how much the staff really wants to provide like the best experience and with faith-based camps and those types of things, how much they're praying for you leading into it and leading out of it,
Mm-hmm.
um and how much they're trying to push the envelope. Like I said, we've gone to the same camp every year, and every year there's a new activity that we get to try. Like whether
Yeah.
it's punji ball, or whether it's uh, archery tag, or whatever it may be. Like they're always kind of trying to push that envelope, at least in the activity front. But I think that doesn't happen without like true passion and true uh, care coming from the staff themselves.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's accurate? Like how would you?
Yeah. We're yeah, I think you kind of you hit it right. We're constantly looking for a way to better your experience, right? Whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or whether that's right now, right? And how can we care for you in the position that you are at, right? Where someone is constantly available and
Mhm.
everyone is there to support that person. So whether it's like we're, working with a group to try to accommodate them as best as possible, we're also working for the individual to give them the best experience as possible. And we're taking into consideration all the comments that come in, whether they're good, and it's like, okay, yeah, we can build on those things, or whether they're negative, and we can look at those things and be like, okay, how can we do this better for next time if there is a next time, or do we need to wash this and build from the ground up? And then there's constant little things that are being done, um, whether that's grounds work, so the camp can always be attractive visually for the people, or whether that's evolving somehow we do the feeding lines for and with our kitchen staff and how we can make that more efficient or give you better seating or give you better areas for meeting rooms or whether that's looking into um, just like better sound for your sessions, right? Your group sessions, and like just every little part of camp. Um, we are constantly thinking about how to make your group's experience, but also you as an individual experience the best that it can possibly be. And sometimes we fall short, and like that's how it goes. But we will we'll try again for next time, right? And we'll constantly be adapting and being concerned about your needs first. I think that's one thing that's probably is huge is just the customer service aspect of camp um, is something we are constantly going for because we know that camp can have such a big impact on people's lives. We want them to have the best experiences they can at camp.
Right. I mean, um, I think that there's obviously there's something that when you go to camp a bunch of times that it becomes really apparent, especially from the more full time staff or maybe the more committed staff, the ones that maybe aren't there for just a summer, because sometimes you do get kind of the feeling that with some of the staff that might be there for like 6 weeks or something like that, it's kind of like a
Hmm.
it's almost like they're doing like a work vacation, like you can kind of get that feeling sometimes, but especially from the people who are like full time and there all the time, um, and are really pouring into it. I think that there's this trait that becomes evident, and that is that, like, at their own personal cost, they're wanting to do what's absolutely best for the group. And I think that, like, that's one of the things that, like, really encourages me is just how much of a uh, how much uh, selflessness is involved oftentimes with camp staff, and how much, like, resourcefulness that comes into it too. Like, they're uh, you're always trying to figure things out, tweak things, make them as honestly as best as possible. um, and that's what's super cool about camp life. I wanted to ask you a couple questions before we kind of close it out and land the plane a little bit. But for you, what are what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in regards to camp life? I'm sure there's many, but what are some of the big ones that stand out to you?
I think probably the biggest one that I'm thinking of that comes to mind right now is camp is very much. and this goes for a lot of things, right? But I think camp especially because it is you kind of give your week of your time or maybe a weekend of your time towards this, but you very much get out what you put in. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna go to camp and just kind of be hands off with everything, your experience may not be the best, right? But like if you're willing to like give into the experience, like you can have an awesome time at camp.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that goes for campers as well as staff, right? Because
Okay.
we're here, all the time, and you can get to that point of just being comfortable, and we can get to that point of just like, okay, I just kind of you treat it as a job, and you can do these you just kind of go in and you work your 9 to 5, and you're out, but like camp has so much more to offer than that. Like we are a place where people are coming to have those retreat weekends. We're a place where people are coming to use our campsites and just kind of have that getaway time. Or we have those fall programmings for our OE groups where the schools can bring their kids to have an outdoor education experience. Or our summer programming or our winter extreme programming, which is our winter extreme programming is over weekends, and uh, it's really big and it's really fast paced and it's long days, and um, it's all there for um, just for the campers, and so as a staff, it's just as applicable. You know, we take out what we put in. Right. And if we
Yeah.
only want to put in a little, then we're going to take out a little. But if we want to put in like everything we have, like we'll you'll see the impact that is made, and it'll be good. And so I think that's probably the biggest one that comes to mind.
You've talked about a couple things, and it's really resonated with me because I've seen it with the youth that I have brought to camp. Is you talk about this yellow zone,
Hmm.
right? And I think that honestly, the yellow zone is very different for a bunch of different people. Um, as you know, like we had a young man by the name of, oh, well, I won't say his name, but we had a young man who
Hmm.
had some physical disabilities
Yeah.
who came to camp with us, and his yellow zone and red zone look very different than perfectly capable students' yellow zones and red zones, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and I think that some of the biggest breakthroughs that I've seen with all students is when they get out of the green zone and into the yellow zone and actually do something in the yellow zone for them. Whether that's
Yeah.
going on the high ropes course for the first time, or uh, I mean, I was that kid in when I went to camp in high school. I paid extra for paintball, right? And do
Yeah.
you know what I did for all the rounds of paintball? It was like in a valley, right? So it was like a
Yeah.
V shape, and
Yep.
there's two sides, and I was maybe 14 years old or something like that, and you know what I did? You're in this valley trying to go get uh, the the
Flag that's
flag
in the
on the other
middle.
on the other end, right?
Yeah.
I our flag is here, their flag is here. Well, I'll keep it perspective, right?
Hmm.
Our flag's back
You'll just
here.
you'll just fly over the gap.
I just went straight up to the left, up onto the little ridge, and told myself that I was defending our flag, and I sat there. I sat there for for all 3 or 5 rounds or whatever of capture the flag that
Hmm.
we played. I didn't get
Yeah.
shot. I didn't put myself in danger. I didn't or whatever. But I was like, I was, I was forcing myself to stay in my green zone, right?
Yeah.
Even though like, I thought I would like because I was that 14-year-old kid. Yeah, paintball was so much fun, all this type of stuff, yada yada yada. But the truth is that I was up in the corner, afraid to get shot. Like that wasn't truly getting into my yellow zone, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
Um,
and I think that that's like it was moving me towards my yellow zone for sure.
mm-hmm.
And eventually, as you know, paintball became a pretty big part of our life for a little while there, and
Mm-hmm.
and I played a lot of paintball and I got shot a lot of times. But uh, like, how would you encourage a student who might be going to camp, right? But like wants to stay in their green zone, but just be in their green zone in a different environment. Like take their green zone from home and just transplant it to their green zone at camp, kind of thing. How would you encourage those students uh, to be?
Well, my first thought is I don't know if you can actually transplant your green zone from like home to camp, right? Because you're going to be put on different hours. You're going to be at least forced to walk to activities that maybe you don't want to do.
Yeah,
uh, but like it's going to be just be a very different experience. But for maybe if you don't want to push yourself, maybe just like think about those questions like why don't you want to push yourself? And why not maybe give it into the experience just like a little bit, right? Because most of the activities that you're involved in, they are staffed by um, very trained people, and people who care about your safety first. So if it's like a safety concern, like
mm,
someone's got you, right? Like if it's you're scared you might embarrass yourself, then the best that I can say is like you're gonna embarrass yourself at some point in your life, and camp's a sweet place to do it because like
because you leave next
someone
week.
I was like, yeah, because you leave next week, and and who knows, like maybe someone else is like maybe it's their first time getting into that experience or whatnot, but um, and there's usually something different for everyone. People might not be fan of heights, right? That's totally fine, right? But at Pine Valley, it's like, but have you ever ridden a dirt scooter, right? Have you ever done archery tag? Like, these are things where you could be the one who puts on the mask for archery tag and grabs the bow and goes and just stands in the corner and doesn't want to be hit, right? If that's you pushing yourself, awesome. At least like you gave the experience like a shot, right? You got on the field
Archery
and you went
tag,
through
a
it.
shot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, right? Like everyone's comfort level is different, and everyone can get a different experience. But I guess my encouragement is just go for it, right? There's people there who care about you. There's people there who are concerned for you. So you are in very good and very capable hands. And that's like why I say it's camp is a very safe environment to try these new things. It's, so
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that come to mind is, you know, if you have a very legitimate, fear, right? Like maybe you've been up on the high ropes course and you've completely frozen. It took
hmm
4 hours to get you down, type of thing. Um, like
well we wouldn't wait that long, but yeah.
sure, but you know what I'm saying. Like it took it
Yeah.
took a long time to get like those types of things. If you like talk to a leader through it, like like talk to a staff member, talk to the leadership you're with, that type of thing. Like work through it.
hmm
The other part is trust the leaders when they're saying like, hey, I think you can do this. Like they're there with you. And then the other thing is that if you find yourself saying no to everything, then you have to check your heart a little bit. If you're like literally everything, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Well, then you're kind of robbing yourself in the camp experience for sure. And those are
Yeah.
all kind of things that I've learned over the years, and especially running a camp. You know, or not running
Yeah.
a camp, but you know the situation over at Pine Valley. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And that's the cool thing about camp is like there's usually enough where it's like we will get your interest in something.
mhm.
Like maybe it's not the outdoor activities, right? Maybe your camp has horses that you want to ride or something like that. Or they have a petting zoo and you've never pet a llama in your life, right? Um, or you never seen a one-eyed horse.
Now you're just
And
flexing Timberly things on
yeah,
us.
I'm just flexing Timberly things. Yeah, if we're gonna keep flex, maybe you've never been on a zip line that's the platform's 52 feet off the ground and it's on a hydraulic system, right?
How do you get up
Maybe
on
you've
top
never.
of that? Do you just take
There's a tower.
stairs,
There's stairs.
staircase?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
a
Yep. There's a
hydraulic
lot of.
system. All right.
Yeah. So
Does
we
your
use
camp?
hydraulics.
Let me ask this before we jump into the other thing real quick, or the follow up question I have. But does your camp have one
Okay.
of those jump off the platform onto the giant air filled balloon on a lake that launches people off the air filled balloon into the lake?
Oh, do we have a blob?
Is that what they are?
Yeah, we do have a blob tower. Um, However, it's not super great because it's not very high.
Uh,
Also, our lake level is really high right now, so it wouldn't be a good experience. But we didn't have to worry about that this summer because again, we weren't able to run a summer program.
right.
But yeah,
Because those look incredibly dangerous, but incredibly fun at the same
yeah.
time. Here's my question. So, um, you've learned a lot of life lessons that have gotten you to this point, and I really like this concept of living in the yellow. Um, I think that for a lot of us, schedules and just the normalcy of life can keep us in the yellow. I'm sorry, keep us in the green instead of pushing us towards the yellow.
Hmm.
How would you encourage someone today? Maybe they're not even at camp. How would you encourage someone today to live more in the yellow, to explore things outside of their perspective and to be challenged?
I think the first thing that I would say is don't be scared to do something by yourself,
Okay.
right? Maybe living in the yellow for you is going out to a sit down restaurant by yourself and just having an experience for yourself, right? That could be terrifying because you could be like, oh, people looking at me like I'm just like a weirdo just sitting here. It's
I mean,
like don't be afraid to do things by yourself. You don't need a group of people. Now, with that, if you're going for a new experience, get a group of people also. Like, because that can just add to it, especially if like it's their first time. Don't be afraid to be the initiator also, or like the leader in these new experiences or these things that could push you, right? All because it's something you're unfamiliar with doesn't mean it's something that you need to shy away from, right?
hmm
Look into it, research it, um, and then go for it. Like, don't let your inexperience dissuade you from doing it.
I like that. But I think for a lot of us, you kind of get settled into a routine. I'm trying to think of outside of COVID life, but you can kind of get settled into a routine where you're not being pushed. You even for adults, you're doing your 9 to 5, you're doing your, you kind of have your set schedules and you're not doing a lot. Even for us yesterday, me and my family, we went to the beach
Hmm.
and chased Lincoln around for 3 hours at the beach. And, like, that's not something that we've done a lot as a family, but we were really blessed by kind of getting more into our yellow zone than our green zone, especially
Hmm.
during COVID. And I think there's huge benefits to that. And I think that spiritually, like, being in our yellow zone is super important because that's where the growth happens. The mundane reading your chapter a day might need to be challenged a little bit. The only attending church on Sundays might need to be challenged a little bit. Like pursuing what it means and what it looks like to get plugged into a body versus, you know, just kind of like picking the spots where you want it to be. You know, like there's a lot of different ways in which we can explore emotionally and physically and spiritually how to be in that yellow zone, because I think that that's really important. And if we're honest with ourselves, we spend a vast majority of our time, like, you know, high 90s% of our time, often in our green zone. Especially for adults, you know, I see it and I want to encourage anyone who might be older listening to this too, is like, especially when it comes to dealing with youth, like, I feel like when I'm dealing with youth, I'm regularly in my yellow zone, but it's kind of become my green zone, if that makes sense. Um, and I see a lot of people who just kind of don't want to deal with the yellow zone of youth in a lot of ways. And, you know, I want to encourage everyone to kind of get, and anyone of all levels to get into their yellow zone and get to where God is calling you, you know, in these things. And I think that there's a huge huge general lesson here to go along with the, you know, the lessons that we have from camp as well. So like students and adults alike, ask yourself what your green zone is. Maybe it's recognize, you know, maybe it's deleting Instagram, or, you know, putting the phone away for a few hours a day, or, you know, those types of things, or setting up good boundaries with your time. You know, all these different things, and there's a bunch more. It's kind of, this is why it's important to be part of a community that can speak into your life, that can challenge you to grow you and to get into your yellow zone. I think that's really cool. That's a really cool concept that you brought to the table, and that's really neat. So, you know, we've talked about camp life. We've talked about, you know, non-camp life. We've talked about various things. As we're kind of closing up, do you have anything else that maybe we haven't touched on, or that you want to touch on, or you know, you want to speak to? Maybe I haven't guided the conversation into a certain area that you want to open up.
I don't think so. I mean, if anyone has questions for the chat about camp life, like we could go there.
Sure. Like, what is there to know here?
No, that's my question, right? Like, if people want to know anything, they can put it in the chat. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, every situation is different. But like, I think we kind of touched on the things that are constant. Is the camp staff are constantly working for you, even if you don't know it, even if you've never been to camp. Like, the camp staff is trying to create the best experience for you.
Yeah.
So
we're just gonna kind of hang out for a second, and and you know, see if any questions come in or anything like that. They may or may not. You know, we're just kind of chilling out. But let's see.
But yeah, I do think we touched on the big ones. So
Yeah. Are there any, like, what's your funniest camp story, or what's one of your funny camp stories?
one of my funny camp stories.
I'm sure there's something. Like,
I mean, we like the kids say ridiculous things all the time. Like one time, me and a couple of my coworkers were doing the tower, and one of the kids comes up to me and he's like, "Is that your sister?" And I was like, "No, who?" And they're like, "Them," because they're also wearing glasses. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, yep, that's it.
that's
Glasses make you siblings. Runs in the family, I guess."
that's, that's hilarious.
As we're both wearing glasses.
You're right. Oh man, that's hilarious.
Like, kids just say ridiculous things.
They really do. They really do. Is that your sister? They're also
Yeah,
wearing glasses.
yeah, and we're both wearing glasses, so we have to be siblings.
Easy, easy.
Yeah, the person that kid said that to was Abigail. So glad that's not the case.
Yikes. Oh. Well, yeah. Well, we're at 11 o'clock. Um, uh, I think we'll call it here. But I
That's
think
fine.
it's cool. I think it's cool to talk about camp stuff. I think it's cool to talk about camp life, and and the various things associated with it. I'm excited to talk
Hmm.
more about some of the other things. Matt, thanks for being here today.
No
Um, we're
problem.
going to we're going to call it here for the day, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty.